Test, test, test. Hey, we're going to start in 2 minutes. Everybody settle in. Everybody settle into your chairs. We got a big night tonight. Hey, everybody, listen up real quick. Okay, listen up real quick. It is really loud, and it's supposed to be loud. There's people here, and we're at a bar. You need some help, Missy? So, if you would, though, just as a reminder, we have very important guests here from Angels Envy. Be respectful of them. And when everybody even whispers in the back, it starts to really grow. So we'll wave at you if you would. Just, I know you're not trying to be disrespectful, but it gets really loud. So we're going to start here in just a sec. We're going to have a great time. So hang tight. Okay, hey, everybody, let me have your attention. We're getting ready to start. If you need a drink, you have to order it right now because once we kick it off and the ladies start to pour the Angels Envy, there won't be time. And so once we get going, please don't order because they're going to be very busy just taking care of this event. So order now, raise your hand. We're not going to pour the first round for about 10 more minutes, so you got time, okay? Everybody good? All right. Nobody raised their hand, so we need one in the corner. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Big Bourbon Club. We were very excited to have you out. It's actually pretty hot in here, but it's not a bad night for August in Louisville, Kentucky. In fact, it's supposed to drop about 15 degrees in about an hour, so be patient and hopefully this breeze will cool it off. But thanks for coming out. We really appreciate it. We have a great night. Old friend and neighbor, Wes Henderson, the founder of Angels Envy. Has anybody here never heard of Angels Envy? Has anybody here never had Angels Envy bourbon? Anybody? All right, Bev hasn't had it. We're getting ready to. Has anybody here not had the rye, the Angels Rye? It's incredible. You're going to get ready to have that too. Wes, it was not long ago when Crest Bride's kids and my kids and your kids were growing up together, and we were in your garage for your first ever release party. How many years ago was that? 2010, because of our kids being together, we were over at Wes's house. In fact, his son Christian camped with us probably no less than 50 times over the course of 10 years, but we had a great time together. But boy, I remember when you moved here from Florida and you told me what you were doing with your dad when I was down at the chamber. And it's turned out pretty well, Wes. Congratulations. You all have done a great job. Congratulations. Everybody say hi to Lydia Jackson of Angels Envy. Lydia, Lydia is the superstar on the ground working with me to put this whole thing together over the last couple of months. Lydia, you've been awesome. Thank you so much. And she has brought probably more merch and giveaways than we've had from anybody before, so we appreciate that. Raise your hand if you're not a member of the Big Bourbon Club. Raise it high. Don't be shy. All right. Look at yourselves. Just look at yourselves. Now, in front of you, Missy, there is a little QR code on that little thing there. If you take your camera, if one of you young people show these older people how to do it, and me, I'm in the older group too, but take a picture and you can join the club. We have 3 membership levels of the Big Bourbon Club. We have a premium membership called Top Shelf for $125 a year. Every one of these events are free, and there's 10 of these events a year with different distilleries and brands that come out and will present and will taste, and we have a great time. We have and also the Top Shelf membership gets you a 25% discount at Joe's Older Than Dirt. Cress, thank you very much for that. Our host and my partner in the Big Bourbon Club. Top Shelf membership gets you on our barrel picks. We've got 6 barrel picks coming up, and we've done about 15 up until now, and you get to participate in barrel picks if you're a Top Shelf member, and you're also first in line on those barrel pick bottles. So there's a lot of benefits to that. There's a small batch membership, which is what we call a premium membership. It's really geared more towards out-of-towners because we're a national club, and the out-of-towners don't always have a chance to come to Louisville and take advantage of all of these events where you don't pay for it. And so that's really for the out-of-towner. And then lastly, we have a free membership. And so if you don't want to break out the checkbook, you're welcome to join for free. We have 4,200 members in a year and a half. We're in 50 states and 13 countries. It has grown. It has become incredible. And we cannot thank you all enough for your membership. And again, please join for free. Join at a premium level, whatever suits you and fits you best. We would just love to have you a part of our family. We're not a traditional bourbon club. We call it a virtual bourbon club. And virtual means this. We have an app. We have a proprietary app that when you download the app, you can meet 4,200 other bourbon lovers from across the world. And today we're getting almost 500 engagements a day on the app where members like you are posting, sharing, DMing, people are talking to one another, 500 a day for a brand new bourbon club. This thing's taken off and it's getting really big really fast. So we appreciate it and we want you to be a part of it. The second part of being virtual is we have a production crew here that you can see. And up on this screen here, and I think that one, Bill, is it I don't know, if, just right here, we've got probably 60 to 80 people in the virtual audience around the country watching in what we call our Top Shelf VIP Lounge. What that means is they're at home, wherever they live, they're watching, and then we'll be able to pull them up on the screen as you saw us testing earlier, where they will be able to talk to Wes and Lydia and myself in the group. They can see us, we can hear them, we can see them. It's not like Zoom, it's where they're really up on the stage talking to us. So that is what makes us virtual. So with that, couple things, and then we'll turn it over to the star of the show. But do us a favor. Help us get the word out on Big Bourbon Club. Take pictures tonight. Post them on your own social media channels. Put them on TikTok. Put them on Instagram, Facebook. Tell them where you are. Tell your friends to join. We have an ambassador club. Of our 4,200 members, we've had 780 members join the Big Bourbon Club that were referred to by friends. Danielle, stand up. So Danielle is our serial ambassador. She has, how many people have you introduced the club to? How many people today at Liquor Barn did you tell about the club? Just 5 today at lunch. She's had 30 friends join, and think about that. If you're going to do something alone, it's okay. If you're going to do it with 30 friends, it's a lot better. Bring your friends into the club. It really works. And we give away bottles of bourbon for those who give away, who get the most ambassadors to join. Ed Comfort, where are you? Ed, stand up. So Ed won our last quarter competition, and he won 3 barrel pick bottles that he's going to take home tonight by virtue of that. So we have a great ambassador club, and because of you, we have another 800 or so members, so we appreciate that. Real quick, barrel picks that we have coming up. We actually did a Laws Whiskey House. You familiar with Laws, Wes, out in Colorado? They're out in Denver. It's really, really good. We visited there last September. We just did a pick a couple of months ago. That'll be released real soon. We have a Knob Creek pick coming up. It'll be 120 proof. We have an Elijah Craig foolproof pick coming up on August 19th. That thing is sold out. We have a Luca Mariano. We did their first ever pick a year ago, and now they have their first Rick House up in Danville, and we'll be the first pick out of their Rick House in Danville on October the 11th. Crest and I are going to lead a group down to Memphis with Blue Note. We're going to do a pick on October 20th. We have a pick with Jack Daniels in Lynchburg on December the 8th. And we have a pick with Penelope up in New Jersey in January. So we have a lot of good stuff coming, and we have a lot that we'll be sharing with you soon. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to turn it over to Wes, and then we have three expressions. We're going to have the Angels Envy bourbon. We're going to have the Angels Envy rye, and we have a barrel pick. So we're going to have three expressions we're all going to taste. There's going to be a lot of Q&A and have a lot of fun. And again, be respectful just because it gets so loud with this many people. But with no further ado, my good friend Wes Henderson. Thanks, Wes.
I got one rule. Everything we talk about here stays here. Okay? Is that all right? And across the entire planet on the internet there. I love doing events like this for a bunch of reasons. First of all, thanks Crest for having us, and thanks Steve. This could not have really been imaginable to me back in 2000 when I first started Angels Envy, that I would have a group of folks like this that were bourbon lovers that loved Angels Envy. And Steve was absolutely correct. We started Angels Envy in the basement of that house, where in the garage we filled sample bottles. There's rumor that my children helped fill those sample bottles as well. They are categorically no comment. But it's an Oldham County company. Anybody from Oldham County? Woohoo! There you go. Represent Pee Wee Valley. It started in Oldham County, and I worked our way up and got one little office off 71, and then before you know it, we built a distillery in downtown Louisville. How many of you folks have been to the distillery? Maybe. Oh wow, thank you. We just did an expansion, so please come back. It's really cool what's been done. So the fun thing about these events, did you put a delay on this, Steve, for me, or anything like? Am I have like a 30-second delay in case I say something that I'm not supposed to say? Because there's a pretty good chance that's going to happen before we're done here. Do you want to hear? Yeah, I know. I may say a lot of shit that's, who knows. Do you want to hear the story behind Angels Envy? Would that be okay? Just in a nutshell? Okay. I had no plans of really being in the bourbon business, which is kind of odd for somebody who grew up in the bourbon business. My dad, Lincoln, was a master distiller at Brown-Forman for almost 40 years. They created Woodford, Gentleman Jack, Jack Daniel's Single Barrel, a bunch of other amazing products. I worked at Brown-Forman in the 90s, left the industry to do other entrepreneurial ventures and build some businesses. And truthfully, I had no plans of ever. And I think there were a multitude of reasons, but growing up in the business, that's just what my dad did. My dad was a chemist, I didn't look at him as a master distiller. Truthfully, nobody knew who made the bourbon at all till the last 10 years or so, if you really want to think about it. So dad was a scientist, and I'll tell you how I know he was a scientist other than going to the lab. I'll tell you that story in just a minute. But underneath the kitchen or the bathroom sink, he had sample bottles from the lab off the still. So new make in a little lab marked with the lab. That's what Dad used for aftershave in the morning. And it's perfect. That hand sanitizer we were giving away, it all kind of fits together then. But those are some of my earliest memories, and I love doing it. I love going to work with my dad. I would go to work with him on the weekends to the lab at Brown-Forman. And I guarantee you, there were a lot of pissed off Brown-Forman lab people when they got there Monday morning. They could tell I was in there monkeying around with their machines. Machines probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, and a 5 or 6 year old was in there screwing around with stuff. So So those are some of my fond memories of what Dad did. But as I said, I had no plans of doing this. I was down in Florida, flew up to Kentucky. I had this crazy idea. I said, Dad, well, I didn't say Dad yet. I said, I had this idea in my head that I wanted to start a bourbon brand as a family. Somebody else suggested it to me or asked me why I'd never done it. And I didn't have a good answer to that. And I felt like I had enough business experience behind me now that I could probably pull it off, but I needed my dad. I really did. So Dad was retired. I flew up from Florida to Kentucky, to Lexington. It was a Saturday morning. We were sitting in the basement, and I said, Dad, what do you think about starting a bourbon brand as a family? And Dad did what dads do, even crazy ass idea. He said, okay, just like that. I don't know if we had any clue if we could do it. Matter of fact, I know we didn't have a clue if we could do it, but that's what Dad did. So picture this. I fly back to Florida, tell my wife, ask my wife. There are a few of you here that know Julie, so you know how that is. There's no telling Julie, the mother of my 6 boys, who's about 5 foot tall, 100 pounds soaking wet. And so I go back down to Florida and say, hey, look, I'd like to do this back in Kentucky. And she said, okay, just like Dad did. So imagine this, dragging 6 kids, 4 dogs, 2 birds, a fish, and a bearded dragon from Florida to Kentucky for an idea, because that's all it was at the time. It was an idea. We wanted to start a little craft bourbon brand. We were looking at little places to do it, and before long, things just kind of started getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. Anybody familiar with finished bourbons? Right? Okay. 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have seen any hands go up. One of the things we wanted to do a bunch of things, but we felt like we had to be very unique coming out with Angel's Envy. At Brown-Forman, they had Glenmorangie, which I'm sure some of you probably know. They are known for that secondary barrel finish. So we age bourbon in a new oak barrel. If you all know this, you all are not rookies here. Y'all are advanced bourbon people. So we age that bourbon in that new charred oak barrel. With Angel's Envy, we take it a step further. We finish it in a second barrel, which is a ruby port wine barrel. This was off the charts back in 2009, 2010, 2011, and there was a lot of noise about it. Anybody remember all that? Remember kind of all that, any chit chat and stuff? The question was, is it really bourbon if you finish it in another barrel? So we've gotten past that noise now. We know a lot of folks finish in secondary barrels. And what I was fond of saying is, no, it's not bourbon. It's bourbon finished in port wine barrels. And that's the way things have kind of evolved now. All right, I've been long-winded. Anybody have any questions right now as we go along? Oh, I'm sure this group's got to have something. Okay. Yes, sir. Where did the name come from? Thank you. I should have planted that question because I have to be asked. I should tell this right off the bat. Anybody ever heard of the Angel Share in this room? Of course. What's the Angel Share? The evaporation out of the barrel in the warehouse. Anybody know how much we lose in Kentucky typically to the Angel Share per year? You guys are good, man. 3 to 5% a year, up to 10% the first year because of what soaks in the wood. So the story is the Angels get their share. What's left they're envious of, and that's where the name Angel's Envy came from. And looking back at the DNA of the brand, we thought about calling it Angel Share. There was a wine in Australia already trademarked Angel Share, so we couldn't do it. I'm very thankful that we couldn't do that because that forced us to dig a little deeper and think a lot more about what we wanted to do. What do you think about when you think of angels? Wings. I wanted wings on the bottle. I didn't care how we did it. I wanted them in the bottle, on the bottle, wherever. So we decided to put the wings on the back of the bottle. The shape of the bottle conformed to the shape of the wings. It was pretty simple. We only did 2 designs. One of them was a little more slender and a little more tall. This was the final one. It was only the second rendition that we did. You guys remember when it came out, right? It still is unique, but back in 2009, there was nothing like it. And I still don't believe that there is anything else like it. So the business evolved. That was a good question. Anybody else, by the way? Yes, sir. Why port wine? We love fortified wines. Fortified wines do a great job with bourbon. So you think of Madeira, think of sherry, port. The flavor profile's excellent. Why we started with the port barrels? I wish I had a great story. They were easier for me to get. We could have easily jumped with sherry barrels. We could have jumped with Madeira barrels. There was a multitude of different port wine barrels. Truth be known, they were the easiest. I had a broker in Portugal. His name's Armindo. He's our guy. Anybody from Jersey here? You know what I mean when I say you got a guy? You got a guy? Armindo was our guy. We'd meet him in a dark alley. He'd wear a trench coat. We would buy barrels and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he sold Rolexes and car stereos the other day. But he still is our partner in Portugal, and I'm blessed to be able to go and visit him. Do we have a question from we're going to bring in on the? Hey there, welcome.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, Mark. What profound question do you have for us?
Well, I just want to say hi from Southwest Florida, so we're missing you from down here. And my daughter also was sorority sister with Dee Ford's daughter, Erin Ford, so I think you know Dee. But I think the biggest question I have for you is, what was the biggest challenge for you or fear when you were building the brand and the distillery? Like, what was the thing, like you said, oh crap, this may or may not work? What was your biggest challenge?
So the question is, and y'all could hear him very well. What was our biggest challenge? We were pretty on focus. Timing is everything. It really is. We could not have decided to do this at a better time. And because of the timing, because of the family history with Dad, everybody knew the Henderson family name. With the packaging, everything really came together. From a business perspective, I think the most difficult part is our partnership that we had. I had 5 seriously type A personality people with everybody always thought they were right, and everybody was the smartest person in the room. And every once in a while that created some tension, but I wouldn't change anything. That's a good kind of tension. But truthfully, probably that was the most difficult thing to manage about the brand was, keeping the partnership intact and keeping us focused. But everything else just happened on its own. I wish I could say I had, more adversity with it. Well, I don't wish that. I'm glad we didn't have more adversity. But the challenge now, as we get bigger, is to maintain the DNA of the brand. Angel's Envy is very much, it's produced the same way today as it always has been. I get asked all the time, is it small batch? What is it? And I'm like, well, our craft, to me, craft is a mentality. It's not a number. And it's maintaining that integrity of the brand as we become global. So that's more of a challenge that we're facing now going forward. So I appreciate that question. Hopefully it answered it for you.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else in here? Okay, do we have a pour yet, Steve? Or we're pouring now? Okay. So with Steve, do you got anything else you want to cover right now before we? Okay.
So thanks, Wes. So we're pouring our first expression now, but I do want several notes that I'll make throughout the evening. But the first I want to make is I want to welcome some important people here. Missy Tompkins, turn around, stand up. You, Missy, stand up. So Missy is a dear friend of mine, and her husband was my best friend growing up. And we actually were diagnosed with melanoma the same month many years ago, and Steve went to heaven about a year ago. And so 2 years ago now, it's hard to believe, but very close friends of our family since kindergarten on. And Missy called me not long ago, a couple of months ago, and said, I'm going to do a fundraiser for the Brown Cancer Center who treated Stephen. And in little or no time, in like a month, she raised $35,000. I donated 2 tables. So the Mullins, thank you for going to the event and purchasing raffle tickets to win the table. In addition, we gave away 2 top shelf memberships to the Mullins family, and you all grab me afterwards. We'll figure that out. But anyway, Missy, you're on our minds. We're always thinking about Stephen, and Chris, welcome too. All right, thanks for coming out. We're glad you're here. And it was harder than hell holding these seats for you. So next time you get here earlier. All right. All right, so what questions? Bill, do you have anything out there? dig up a question. Any questions in here for Wes? Any questions for Missy? Any questions for? I'm just joking. Any questions out there? All right, Jack, you got a question? We got a question over here.
Repeat that for me. I'm sorry. I was reading some of the comments on the board there. Yeah, I think Chris learned from my father. I mean, at the end of the day, and of course, he's doing some fabulous work now. And he took over when Dad left. He took over Woodford when Dad left. So Chris is a good family friend, and I think it was good for Dad also to be able to pass off some of that knowledge. And he did the same thing with my sons also. Dad was a natural teacher, so a lot of interfacing there before the transition.
Tell us about the relationship with your dad and Peggy Stevens, our good friend.
Okay, hold on, hold that thought. What were you gonna something? No, we ate all that stuff, man. We don't care. We don't care. That's yeah, I don't go through the rigmarole of adding water and this and that and the other. I drink it as it's produced, and yes, I do swallow it as well. I don't spit it out, so it's probably why I'm not asked to judge a lot of competitions because of that very thing. Steve's question about Peggy No Stevens, another dear friend of the family, and Peggy goes back to Brown-Forman, and Peggy was one of the first female master tasters of Brown-Forman, and she worked under my father as well. Well, not for my father, but Dad mentored her and taught her about tasting and so on and so forth. So those relationships go back decades, and in the bourbon industry, generations. In some cases, I just interviewed, and I'll tell you more about the podcast. Bill Samuels on my podcast last week. It aired. I learned more stuff about makers than I didn't know, and I'll give you some information on how to find that. It was truly, I'd say, a historic interview because of what he had to say.
Okay, raise your hand if you have not received your pour yet. Okay, so we still have several to go out there. Any other questions? Dennis.
Okay. That's a really good question. The question is for the watching. When we first launched Angels Envy, there was pushback, I'd say, on the boards, on the bourbon boards, with some of the, at the time, probably the more hardcore bourbon folks about whether Angels Envy was bourbon. And I have the same answer today as I had to them. It's bourbon finished in port wine barrels. I didn't ever pretend that was anything else. And we have great relationships with a lot of the folks, like Straight Bourbon, all the old, I'm not even on them anymore, all the old school boards, which is, I need to go back because it's really cool. But I tuned a lot of that out. And not because I didn't care what people thought, just because I had a vision of where I wanted to go. And I had a vision that I think people would be happy with it when we got where we were going. And I didn't need that noise in the background. And I think fortunately it shows with the acceptance of finished bourbons that it's worked. Does that answer your question? I hope. We were, and it was a little scary. Don't be mistaken. I was aware that there were questions, but we had this new frontier of bourbon drinkers that were embracing Angels Envy, and that's really where we put all of our time and energy. But I did listen. When our rye came out, our special blends and things like that, I did listen though. Good question. Thank you. Yes, sir. Hey, good. And thank you. The question is, were there any ideas or things that we did that didn't really work out? And really, no, not yet. I'm sure eventually something will lay an egg somewhere, but you all will never see it. So, we've never thrown a barrel of bourbon away. That would be a crime. I think a felony in Kentucky, probably, as it should be. But now I tell you one thing we have had some funky barrels. When you are finishing, sometimes you get oxidation of the port, and we have had to toss some barrels. But we know that we can open that bung and smell it right away and tell whether or not it's a bad barrel. So we've run into that. There was one experiment that we did. It was a tequila finish, and it didn't turn out as well as I thought it would. But I think it might have been the type of tequila that we used. I know it doesn't sound all that good. The experiments that we did show that it can be very good. It really can. It can be very good.
So Wes, when you open a bung and you smell that it's bad, what do you do with that barrel?
Give it to Brown Foreman.
Hey, we actually got together last night and practiced some of these. That was pretty good. Okay, everybody ready? Does everybody have a bourbon? I do not. I'm the only one. Wes does not. So we need two up front. She's coming. That's all right. So everybody take a sip. Take a sip. You know how to do it.
Okay, is everybody all set up? Everybody all good? Okay. Let's walk through this together. And by the way, if anybody wins the rocks glasses, you're going to have to wash this one because I'm drinking out of it. All right, let's get to it. You guys are experienced bourbon drinkers, so but let's walk through some of the very basics of how to drink bourbon. But you guys already know that. Let's take a look at the color first, and you've got that nice amber hue. Now, in Angel's Envy, because of the port wine finish, sometimes you do get maybe a hint of the red from the port wine if the light hits it the right way. I actually see some of it in here now. But look, the port, we did not want to make bourbon that tasted like port. We wanted bourbon with a slight port influence. So you're going to get a slight bit of color, and you'll get it on the flavor. All right, so let's bring it to our noses. Do this for me. When you bring it in through your nose, leave your mouth open. I know it sounds complicated, but you can do it.
It's going to be hard for some of them, but.
Why do you think I leave my mouth open, or why I recommend that? Any thoughts? It vents out some of the alcohol. Yep. What do you smell when you smell Angel's Envy? Caramel. That's a good one. What else? Vanilla, vanillin, one of the most commonly recognized aromas. What else? Fruity. That could be the dried fruits from the port wine. You're going to taste that in the flavor as well. Very subtle. Okay, those are some good ones. There are 300 and some odd different aroma components in bourbon. You could have said sweaty socks, and that might have been one of them. It's kind of a trick question. Okay, all right, cheers, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. All right, let's give it a taste here. Now, I'm not going to do this old Fred No, swish it around in your mouth crap and Kentucky Chew and all that stuff. We're just going to drink it, all right? I like it. She said I already did. So I think everybody would agree that Angel's Envy is a very approachable bourbon. But it also retains the complexity. Sometimes it's hard to be both. It's hard to be approachable and hard to be complex at the same time. So we were fortunate, I think, to kind of hit the mark. It's a 6.6 4 to 6 year old bourbon finished in a port wine barrel for up to 6 months. So 4 to 6 years, and then another 4 to 6 months in the port wine barrel. What do you think? Familiar? You guys know it? Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Do we have any questions from the web over there? Yes, sir. It's trial and error. Looking at some of the comments up here as well about the port wine. Yeah, it's trial and error. It really is. It's experiments on the bench with different flavors of port, putting them with the bourbon, and then really it's just a waiting game. It's a waiting game. We sit and so sometimes it's like watching grass grow or paint dry, but that's truly how it is. And we're checking it on a regular basis till we decide it's ready to go, and then we pull it. Good question. Yes, ma'am. It was Dad and I both. Our mash bill is 72% corn, 18% rye, and 10% malted barley. Does that add up to 100? Does that sound right? It is a very familiar mash bill. It's very similar to Woodford. It's a little higher on the rye, just a tad bit higher on the rye. So that we knew right away what we wanted to do. So 72, 18, 10 is the mash bill that you'll see it down at the distillery if you come down and watch us distill. Yes, sir. We do not cut it before it goes in the port barrel. We take it straight from the bourbon barrel and then put it in the port wine barrel for that 4 to 6 months.
So, Wes, I've got a question. I remember distinctly when you released that first bottle, the Crescent I took home, it was a higher, I don't know what the word is. I think you left it in the port barrel a little bit longer at the very beginning, and you ultimately settled on something a little bit less. And I was in love with that first one. But how much longer did you keep the early ones in before you figured out the recipe?
Well, we kept them in, and I guess Steve got some of the secret stash because I don't remember exactly what I gave him. I might have used him as a guinea pig to make sure he survived. Our first cask strength releases. Anybody had our cask strength before? And you all know our special releases on the board there. Somebody posted their ice cider finish, a picture of their ice cider finish. So the cask strengths are typically finished in a port wine barrel longer. So that's probably what you found, Steve. If you've got the 2012 cask strength, anybody have the 12? Somebody, you do? That's about $4,000 online right now, which is crazy. I know. The secondary market, as you all know here, is insane. It really is. But thanks for bringing that up, Steve. Anybody else?
Question in the back, David.
We did. We started, and then really, really interesting story of how we came across our first bourbon barrels. Now, we had to have bourbon that matched our specifications, so it wasn't just a matter of finding a bunch of barrels somewhere and saying, "Here we go." So we sourced the barrels. We did the finishing. We did the blending. We did the bottling. We did all that stuff ourselves. How we got those barrels? There's a New Zealander that bought a bunch of bourbon. It was a whiskey, and really, he made RTDs. Anybody know what RTDs are? Ready to drink cocktails. Ready to drink. So they're huge in Australia, really big in New Zealand. So this guy, and I don't remember his name, our last name is Foster, I think, bought all this bourbon for RTDs. He's a billionaire. Billionaire that also liked to fly helicopters. So the guy goes up with his buddy one day and doesn't come back. It's like 5 years later, they find the guy no longer with us, unfortunately. But all that inventory he had purchased for the RTDs became available. And that's where we got our first barrels. I'm sworn to secrecy as to who produced them, but they were fantastic. And there were 80,000 available. We only bought like 5,000. I would trade 3 of my 6 kids to have had the other 80,000 of them right now. And I'll tell you exactly which ones I'd trade. Some of them may be watching right now. No, but I'll tell you why. So so distillers have been, and sourcing has kind of got a bad rap from time to time. Distillers have been producing for each other for centuries, and trading and all this other stuff. It's been going on forever. When Heaven Hill lost their distillery, other people produced for Heaven Hill. So we paid for a 4-year-old Kentucky Straight Bourbon barrels, $450 a barrel back in 2009. Today, $4,000 for that same barrel. It's incredible. So now you know even more why I wish I had all those 80,000 barrels.
All right, we've got a question for Mr. Alex Calling on the rich side of Little Rock, Arkansas. Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Oh, he's getting a hand over here.
Hey, Wes. I'm actually in a suburb, so if that tells you anything. We visited the distillery last year while the renovations were going on. So with the renovation, is there any plan to add a permanent expression to the lineup?
Yes, probably, maybe. I'm not sure. We've toyed with it for a while. We've got a ton of experimentation. When I retired at the end of January, we had 26 some odd innovations in process. I would like to see them add one more SKU, and I would love to see something unfinished, but we've kind of camped in that finished box. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we have another release that ends up. But one thing I don't want, though, I don't want you to walk in the liquor store and see 10 different Angels Envies. I don't want that. I want that exclusivity. I want us to do a few things and do them very well. So, but adding another, I call them SKUs, and it's just a fancy word for line extension. I wouldn't be surprised someday if you might see that, and maybe something with the rye, or who knows. But thank you for that question. I appreciate it. I know it was kind of a non-answer, but
No, you bet. You bet. Thanks for the answer.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. This is fun. I like this. There's one of the cast strengths, by the way, an early cast strength. It's not a 12, but it's close. I think that's a 13 or, well, probably a 14 or 15. Any other questions here? Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, so raise your hand if you're not from Louisville. Raise it high. All right, so let's have a little game here. Whoever traveled the furthest. I see you back there, Mark. So we've got Texas, Washington, D.C. I heard you. I just wanted to get you excited. And we've got Harrisburg. So whoever came from the furthest, come on up here. We got some gifts for you, you too. Come on up. And if anybody came from our favorite battlefield near Gettysburg, you three come up too. Come on. All right, you take over. Doug, sorry, Anchorage, Kentucky does not count. All right, any questions out there? Wes, what year did your dad join the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame?
Oh, my gosh. I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. Yeah, oh, yeah, it was at least 20 years ago. Dad was on the inaugural class of the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame, and I was fortunate enough to be selected to the Bourbon Hall of Fame 3 years ago. So there's one of three. Thank you.
Now, Wes already forgot. We worked on that one last night, too, and I was going to bring that up at the end.
Okay, well, I had to talk about it. That's one of three father and son teams that are in the Kentucky Bourbon Hall of Fame, which is really special. And one day, hopefully, one of my kids will be on there also. My son Kyle is the oldest. He's our production manager. 4 of the 6 work at the distillery, which I love seeing. And then as I've retired, they're starting to take on more responsibility.
So how are the boys doing with the taste? Are they good with pulling it out, and they're good with flavors? And
the boys are great at that. And by the way, that's something you can learn. You really can. You can be taught how to taste and taught. We have a quality team at the company, and those folks have learned. I think you have to have some innate abilities to pull out things, but you can be taught how to do that. They're very good. And they have been very instrumental in the special releases. We've had some debates back and forth, styles. Their style is more like my. You're going to see next with the rye, more my style, which is more aggressive on the finish. It kind of jumps out at the glass. My dad was about subtlety. The boys are more about subtlety, so it's been fun seeing. It's fun seeing us go full circle from subtle to a little more upfront, and then back to subtle. So it's been a great dynamic. It really has been. But at the end of the day, I'm still dad, and they're still my kids, and I can pull the dad card, which I do.
All right, everybody, raise your hand if you've not received the rye expression. I think we're getting close. Raise it high. Just a couple over here. So we're just about ready, Wes.
Okay. I get asked a lot about the rye as to what the inspiration was behind the rye. It was real simple to me. Rye is spicy, as you all know. Any of you all drink rye, you know rye is spicy. I felt like the rum barrel was the best way to balance out the spiciness of the rye. There was not a second thought in my mind as to what I was going to do, and we immediately decided to go with a rum finish on the rye. So let's just do it. So let's smell it. Butterscotch, pancakes, creme brulee, Christmas. Stick it in the microwave for about 10 seconds in the winter. It will just blow you away. All right, so this is 6 to 8 year old rye finished in an rum barrel for up to 18 months. So cheers once again, everybody. Let's give it a sip. By the way, this is 100 proof, and you probably wouldn't have known that if I hadn't have told you, but y'all are more experienced spirits drinkers. But 100 proof, what I think is fascinating about that is, guys, I can't hear over here just a little bit. Kind of help me out a little bit. Thank you. So there's proof and there's perception of proof. And I think we perceive this as being lower proof than even Angel's Envy at 86 proof. And that's because the layers of flavor, the viscosity, it kind of masks some of that upfront alcohol. Do you all agree with that statement? Yeah. What do you think of the rye? You like it? So, I'll tell you a story about the rye. Before Dad died, he was over at the house. I don't remember what night or whatever, but he was over at the house, and I was excitedly telling my father what I was going to do with the rye. I was going to finish it in rum barrels. I was so excited about it. I thought it would be the coolest thing on the planet. And after I left the room, and I didn't know this till after my dad passed away, my wife said, my dad shook his head and said, don't think so. No, don't think so. But Dad, being the way my father was, he didn't tell me that. And it could have fallen flat. Who knows? But Dad encouraged me to go down whatever rabbit hole, and I hate to use that word now. Whatever foxhole he was going down. So Dad was just supportive, and I think it ended up being one. Now it goes back to that subtlety thing we just talked about. I don't think Dad could wrap his arms around something that was boldly finished like that, and it's a generational thing, I believe. I think that I say our generation. I don't know what that means, but we like bolder flavors in food, bolder flavors in drink, and I felt like this was more suitable for kind of the taste of folks this day and age. But my kids are back to where my dad is, so that's how the rye got hatched. And has anybody ever heard of the unicorn blend? The rye unicorn blend? Anybody? Okay. Google that one when you get home. That's a fun one. That is truly like the Holy Grail bottle that we have at Angel's Envy, I think, because we did so few of them. Yes, go ahead. Bourbon is without question the biggest seller. What do you think? We're 70-30, Lydia? 80-20? We're probably 80-20 on the bourbon side. We're producing more rye as fast as we can, but you know we're selling out everything we're making. So, good question. Any thoughts about the rye? Any questions about the rye? Yes, sir. Why is the rye more expensive? It's much older and it's higher proof. It's 6 to 8 years in age, finished up to 18 months, and it's that higher proof as well. And it's getting up there. You know, I mean, in some stores I've seen it for $100, but anywhere from 79 to 100 depending on where you shop. Got someone from Liquor Barn over here. Where are you guys on it? Do you know? Somebody from Liquor Barn? I thought, or somebody just hangs out in Liquor Barn. Okay, I thought you worked there. So you just hang out and talk to people, and well, that's cool. So when I was a kid, radio. Did anybody? Did it? It's just such a guy geek thing. Radio Shack was like my favorite place to hang out. That I'm aging myself, right? Now it's the liquor store, and my Commodore 64. I had one. I can't go in the liquor store and leave without spending $500 or more. It's really I have a problem. I have gone from, so my wife has forbidden me to bring any more bourbon into the house. So what I have to do is when I get it home, I put it in the garage, hidden off to the side, and slowly I sneak in one bottle at a time down to the basement. I don't think I'm fooling anybody, but in my mind, I think I'm getting one over, you know? But does anybody else have that problem? I know you do.
You know, ironically, my wife doesn't know that I bring bourbon in often, and oh, hey, honey, I didn't know you showed up in the back. Just joking. Just joking. She knows. What is, so what do you all think of the rye? What are you getting on the nose? What are you getting on the finish? Vanilla? Butterscotch? Oreo cookies? Raisin oatmeal.
That doesn't apply to the rye. And it's sweaty socks, not dirty socks.
I've got a pancakes over here from one of the ringers. I tell you what, I think it has a long finish. Very warm, long finish. Do you all get that, or you get a shorter finish? It is a long finish. It's very good.
This is one you can pour in a glass like I'll do in my office and just let it sit in the glass and let the aroma kind of do it. And it truly changes. As the alcohol evaporates, the flavors become more concentrated. And then I encourage you to try that as well.
Okay, Bill, is it a question or, oh, we got Eric Woosley in Huntsville, Alabama. Eric, Rocket Man.
How are you, sir?
Welcome.
Got a question on your marketing and the decisions that you make as far as expanding your market. I saw on the Google machine a couple of days ago that you guys are expanding to Canada. What's the timeline on that, and what's kind of that process you go through to decide, hey, we're going to expand the market and not just expand the market, but into another country?
Oh, wow. And you all heard the question very clearly about decisions made on expansion. Certainly, we're looking at markets where there is an appetite for bourbon. Canada is one. They've been bugging the hell out of us for about 8 or 9 years. And finally, we even convinced that the Canadians are trying to dismantle our country and smuggle it back over there. We're in Canada now. And that was the decision that we made because of our wonderful, I joke with my friends from Canada, but we're also in Europe. And we had thought about going to Russia, but there's some shit going on over there now, so I wouldn't count on that happening anytime soon.
If you didn't understand that, he said there's some shit going on over there now.
Yeah, that's it. So, but thanks for that question. I don't know if I answered it clearly enough, but we're looking at demographics, we're looking at consumption, and people who are just so freaking persistent that we're like, okay, here, take some. Just stop bugging me.
Wes, how many cases are you all selling worldwide now?
Oh, gosh. Lydia, where are we now? Ballpark. approximately 350,000, and we don't actually. I don't think we even really report this. Well, it's public. It's out in the trades and stuff like that. But let's say 300,000 9-liter cases. So that's 9 times. What's 9 times 350,000? Somebody that's not from Kentucky that can solve that problem. I can't look. I can't solve the problem, so I'm asking how many 9 times 350,000. Get out your calculators. So that's 3.3 million bottles a year. Never would have thought. Never would have thought. And they're consistent.
Where could it go to 10? I mean, where does it go?
I think we can keep rolling. And once again, the challenge is to maintain the integrity of what we've built. And we have so far. As long as you kind folks keep supporting us, we'll keep making it.
So let me do a quick straw vote. We always do this. Your first expression was the traditional Angels Envy bourbon that all of us have had other than Bev Martell. Bev's living in a cave in Kentucky, I guess. Raise your hand if your favorite of the two so far is the bourbon. So we've got a very small sampling. So raise your hand high if you like the rye and prefer that better. Wow. There you go.
Wow. Okay. That tells me all I need to know about marketing going forward now.
All right. So let's take a quick break if we can. We'll go ahead and pour the final barrel pick expression. But in the meantime, we're going to do a randomizer. So we have a partnership with Beverage Barn out of Henderson, Kentucky. And they are nice enough to donate. They're not donating, they're selling at MSRP allocated bottles to the Big Bourbon Club every month. And I'll tell you what they are this month. They've been in the newsletter and on the app. And we don't have any super premium allocated bottles this month, but you will see those in the fall as they're delivered to the liquor store. So let me see if I could find, well, hold on. So everybody has a chance, if you're a Big Bourbon Club member, to submit your name to be eligible for the drawing. So Barbara Brown, Barbara, hold up what you won last month and you picked it up today. She got a Weller Special Reserve, right? And we sent out a Colonel Taylor yesterday to Jonelle Espinoza. And I've lost the picture that I need. This may take a second, so hang with me. All right, it's coming. Hang tight. Okay, so this the price is the MSRP, and then we will get this to you wherever you may be. The first bottle that we're going to do the randomizer for is a Cream of Kentucky. Cream of Kentucky for $99.99. If you round up, that's $100.
Is that Jim Rutledge? Is that Rutledge's thing?
All right. All right, Bill. Who's the winner of the Cream of Who's the winner that gets to spend $100?
Congratulations, you win, but it's going to cost you $100.
All right, there it is. Robert Hughes. Congratulations, Robert.
Actually, that's a good deal. That's a really good deal on that bottle.
The next bottle is Eagle Rare. And this, what's a good price for Eagle Rare, Tony Bird? What's a good price? 40. This is $42.99. All right, Eagle Rare. Let's go, Bill. Beverage Barn in Henderson, Kentucky. The next time you have 2 hours to go one direction, go see our friends Brian McDaniel. I'm serious. They're great friends and they're sponsors. You never know who's in Western Kentucky.
Tristan Martin.
Tristan Martin. So these folks are, well, they're going to be virtual. Members of the club from all over.
Got it.
Yeah, not just here. All right, the next one's Blanton's. Blanton's for $76. And of course, if you don't want it, you do not have to purchase it. Steve Owens, Blanton's, congratulations. And we've got two more. We have a Michter's Small Batch Sour Mash, $65. Michter's. Can you read that one?
Brad Newman. Brad Newman.
All right, Brad, congratulations. And our last one for $100 is OKI Reserve blended bourbon. Has anybody had OKI? Is it good? Never had it. Where's it from?
New Riff, yeah.
New Riff. Is it a New Riff brand?
No, I think it used to be, but a couple gentlemen have it now.
Okay. So OKI, Ed Comfort. There you go, big dog. You're going to be $100 lighter when you drive back to Danville. Thank you very much. Thanks for doing business with us. We appreciate it. All right. So, Alex, thank you for scribing all of that. Ed, congratulations. We appreciate it. All right. How we doing on the next expression? All right. Let's do this. All of you fine folks from Texas. So, the great folks at Angels Envy they have brought tchotchkes for everybody. But we're going to have you come up and get them in the order that I because it's my club. So, Texas is the next furthest to come. So, Texas, come on up and grab what you choose.
You know, and as they are coming up, we're pouring a barrel pick for you guys right now. And we're kind of in the home stretch, and I know we're going a little long here. I appreciate everybody's attention. I really do, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll do the last one here in just a second. You got a question? Yes, ma'am. Okay, now's a good time to take some of those questions. Has the supply chain caused us any issues? I think, like everybody, there have been some challenges. Our biggest challenge was probably glass, and just as much to do with our glass plant closed their U.S. plant and moved it overseas as it did with just being able to get glass. But a lot of that stuff's just in time, where we're waiting on something to get there. The minute it gets in the door, we're using it. So we've been pretty fortunate so far. Yes, go ahead. Is what? I'm sorry? Yep. Is the rye overseas yet? No, it's not. Okay, so our grain. So all of our corn comes from Langley Farms in Shelby County. Mr. Langley, thank you. Nice local folk, good corn. Rye and malted barley rye is a colder weather grain, come from up north, and our malted barley the same. We don't malt barley, so we have to have somebody else. There are some really good experiments going on now with rye in Kentucky by the University of Kentucky Agriculture School of Agriculture that's experimenting on growing rye in Kentucky. So you'll see more rye probably grown in Kentucky as we go along. Good question. Thank you.
All right. Anything else out there? All right. Trivia question. Well, so before I do this, I invited the Browns, who are from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, to come up and grab a gift from being near Gettysburg. And the gift that Barbara chose, which was really not part of the gifts that she was allowed to, but I let her. I want you to hold that up. Hold that up. So this is a candle out of an Angels Envy bottle that Aaron made that and donated it tonight because he's not only a great guy, a top shelf member, but he loves Angels Envy. And he texted me and he goes, Steve, could I make a candle out of an Angels Envy bottle and we give it away? I said, I would love that. So thank you very much. Awesome gift, Aaron. By the way, Old Carter is September 13th. I'll get you a bottle. All right, so let me let me take a moment to thank our sponsors of the Big Bourbon Club. Most of you know our good friend Sean Higgins from Mint Julep Tours. Sean is a great supporter, great sponsor of the Big Bourbon Club, and we appreciate him very much. I mentioned Beverage Barn out of Henderson. Brian McDaniel's been a great partner for over a year now, so we really appreciate what he's doing with us. City Cruisers is one of the 2 tour companies that Sean owns. Element 502, Bill Reynolds. Bill, back in the corner. Bill is running production for all of this top shelf VIP lounge experience. Bill, we cannot thank you enough. Charles Renee is behind us. You've probably seen Charles is setting up, but Charles is running all the cameras, all of the live stream production. It's a big job. And Charles, we appreciate you very much. We really do. Thank you very much. Okay, back to you, Wes. We'll do the barrel pick.
Okay, once again, thanks everybody for your patience as we kind of work through this. We have a final taste for you. This is an Angels Envy barrel pick, and Lydia already told me what the proof was, but this is I probably shouldn't have told you. This is 104.6 proof, but I truly believe that after you taste it, you'll say, "Oh wow, it doesn't feel." And we talked about proof and perception of proof. So the single barrel program is a lot of fun. We had it early, but we dropped it because we didn't have enough product. Now we've resurrected the single barrel program, and it is back now. So let's. This is a little older whiskey, finished in port barrel, a little bit longer, but most importantly, it's a single barrel. I think this hits the sweet spot. Now, all of our single barrels are not actual barrel proof. Our cask strength that we release once a year is barrel proof. All of our barrel picks are between 100 and 110. The reason for that is we didn't really want to put out another barrel. We didn't want to cannibalize our cask strength that we do every year. But this is kind of the sweet spot, I think, for high proof bourbon. It's not so hot that it blows you away, but it's got that little bit of punch to it, and it's got that flavor that you get with a single barrel. So let's give it a shot here, see what you think. Cheers again. Thank you. I mean, shoot it. I mean, you can. So give the alcohol just a second to dissipate, and you really get a ton of flavor there. You really do. Once again, I think this is the sweet spot with proof. And so what do you think of the single barrel? Do you think we're doing okay with that? Thank you. Now, you can get that at the distillery. You can also get it at select retailers around the country as they order them. Any out there now? Single barrel? Locally? From where? So the one we've got here right now is available at Total Wine, just so you know. So this is a barrel pick from Total Wine. So if you really like this one, go snag that. It's expensive, but it's worth it. Not that you guys care because you all are bourbon fanatics, so which I love. So any other questions right now? Yes, sir. The question is, are there any exclusive experiences at the distillery? Is the bottle your own back yet? So we've got a bottle your own program, which is a lot of fun. It's a special tour. You actually it's a special blend. You actually I'm sorry, I keep cutting out. You actually fill the bottle yourself. You write the label on it. It's really genius. We make you do all the work and we charge you more for it. But there's a lot more. So that's an exclusive experience. I also recommend our cocktail classes. We brought those back. Last night was the first one. Go on our website. Cocktail classes, great date night, or buddy night, whatever you want to call it. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. So those are just a couple.
So Wes, tell us a little bit more about the expansion at Angels Envy. What will we see now if we haven't seen it yet? What can we do there with groups and bigger parties?
Well, the big thing is if our event space has expanded significantly. We have more tasting rooms. We can accommodate 40 to 50,000 more people a year, which we were turning away before the expansion. It's just a great vibe. I can't describe it any other way. So if you're looking for event space, we've got it. It just really adds a lot more to the. It's hard for me to describe. Adds a lot more to the experience. It really does. Okay. Any other? Yes, sir. The chocolates, yes. So the question is, first of all, the comment is the gentleman loves our chocolates, which you get on the tour. Yes. What do you think of those? Come on. So we designed those chocolates with Art Eatables. Also, that was a horrible, torturous thing for me. I had to sit for 3 hours and taste different chocolates until we picked the right ones. So I totally lost my train of thought. What was the next part of the question? How much bourbon do we produce? We fill about 130 barrels a day. All of our production is done at the plant in Louisville. Everything is right there.
Hey, Wes, I remember talking with you 100 years ago about the Vermont America building and the feasibility of rehabbing that thing that had been on the market for 20 years because of the brown water issues. How did you all get through that when no one else could?
Honestly, initially, I was enamored with the old Taylor property. Y'all familiar with Castle and Key? And has anybody been there before? Isn't it beautiful? Now, when I saw it, it was overgrown, dilapidated. It was very hard to imagine what it could be. But I pictured an amphitheater there, a hotel, bed and breakfast, all those things. But then my mind started clicking a little bit more. And I was thinking about how the history of bourbon in downtown Louisville has pretty much gone away. You know, since Prohibition, the bourbon offices have moved. There are no producers downtown, and I wanted to be the first to bring bourbon back to an urban setting in Louisville. So that's where I went. So we were the first full production. We were the first full production distillery in downtown Louisville. So the building, anybody remember that building before we? It was a fixer-upper. It was a brownfields property, meaning, as Steve said, there was groundwater contamination. Nobody wanted it. We took it and made it the most pristine, clean, beautiful piece of land, I think, on Main Street. And I thank you for supporting that. We really appreciate that. Yeah.
You know, we worked hard for 20 years to get it developed and couldn't pull it off until you came along. And it is not only alongside Slugger Field, it is absolutely the anchor to that side of Main Street because of what you've done on the south side.
Well, and then this thing called Nulu came, which has added just so much. Hasn't Louisville really grown up over the last 10 or 15 years? It really has. Growing up here, you would be out of town telling people, hey, come to Louisville. Lots of stuff to do here, you know? Now, we've got all these distilleries. We've got great restaurants. We've got great bars, place to work, all these fun things. So now I encourage people to come to Louisville on the regular.
Well, it sounds like since Wes is retired, he may want to run for mayor.
No.
Okay.
Well, I would say, since we talked about mayors, so I first ran this idea by Mayor Jerry. So when Jerry Abramson was the mayor, I came up from Florida and told him what I wanted to do, and he was like, "Oh wow, this is great. We should do this." It didn't really happen when Jerry was in office, but he recognized. He did a promotional video for me, talking about bringing Louisville or bringing bourbon back to Louisville. This was 2007. So it goes way back. So the city has been wonderful supporting us. The chamber, Louisville Convention, Visitors Bureau, all those folks have really supported us in getting where we need to be.
We have a question, Mr. Eric Woosley.
Eric, how are you? Good to see you again.
I'm back. Hey, so I was reading on your website a little while back, and you guys every September partner with like the Arbor Day Foundation, and so we had Marble Distilling in, and their big thing is sustainability. Can you talk about what you guys do with the Arbor Day Foundation and the planting of oak trees? That's a pretty cool deal. Reading on your website.
That is perfect timing. Lydia was going to remind me to talk about this, and she shouldn't have to because it's an incredible initiative. So years ago, do you know how many years it's been now? 6, 7? This is the 9th year of Toast the Trees. And during Bourbon Month in September, if you put a picture on social media, hashtag it Toast the Trees, so a picture of a cocktail of Angel's Envy or whatever, for every hashtag you post, we plant an oak tree. We have now planted over 130,000 oak trees in partnership with the Arbor Day Association. And we have planted more wood than we have used. It takes 75 to 80 years for a tree to grow old enough for us to harvest it for a barrel. And I will tell you, this is very important, so please hear this if you haven't heard anything. I was in I wasn't in Eastern Kentucky. Long story short, I was working with victims from the floods in Eastern Kentucky and working with family members and deceased people and things like that. That's my other job. It's a whole other story. But the flooding in Eastern Kentucky, a lot of that can be contributed to this strip mining, coal mining that's happened there. And with the strip mining, they're taking vegetation off the mountains. They're taking all these things. And because of that runoff is why we ended up with this flooding. So our trees that we were planting are in the Appalachian area and are designed in some places to prevent future disasters like this. So it meant a lot before, but to deal personally with the impact of the horrible nature of the flooding in Eastern Kentucky, to see what we're doing to help there and what you can do to help. This isn't about me and about us. It's about you all doing those hashtags in the month of September. You can sit at home in your underwear and a t-shirt and plant a frickin' tree. It feels like COVID all over again, right? Because none of us wore pants for a year and a half. And I've gained 20 pounds that I can't seem to lose. So Toast the Trees is the month of September. Thank you, sir, for bringing that up. You're very kind. Thank you so much. Yes. This year what? Okay. So you can post now. So we've extended it to the month of August also. So please, before you leave tonight, take a picture of your Angel's Envy sample and hashtag Toast the Trees, and make sure you also tag me at KY Bourbon Maker, at KY Bourbon Maker, and that way we can continue. Great questions. Thank you. Anybody else?
So let's take a straw vote. The third expression, the barrel pick. Who did the barrel pick? Lydia, do we know? At a liquor store? Somebody from Total. So this was a Total Wine barrel pick. What do you think of it? Is it incredible? So this would also be the same mash bill. It's just simply a single barrel cask strength, correct?
Well, it's a single barrel, but it's going to be between 100 and 110 proof. So
it's not a cask
not
strength
quite cask
necessarily.
strength, but
okay,
close.
What do y'all think? What do you get on it? What type of what do you get on the what do you get on the nose? What do you get on the tongue? What flavors are you getting? Cinnamon. I get cinnamon too. Yell it out. What do you get? Raisins.
There we go with the damn sweaty socks again.
Hold on. Hey, Wes.
Look, I opened that door, and
Wes, he teaches at DeSales High School, not Trinity, so it's starting to make sense.
Ooh.
It's all making sense to me now.
So we got the Trinity St. X DeSales thing happening now, right?
No, St. X is not even in the picture. This is just DeSales. What else you get?
That's where I went to school, so it's fine. What do you get? Go ahead.
So good. It is so good.
The flavors are a lot more concentrated because it is that barrel pick, and that's really what we're trying to achieve. So think of Angels Envy amped up a little bit.
All right, so let's take a quick straw vote. Number one, the first Angels Envy bourbon. Would that be your favorite? Raise your hand out of these three. We still have a couple. We have two. You all are in very small company, Chris and Clay. All right, the rye. Is the rye your favorite? Overwhelmingly. And the barrel pick. I would say the barrel pick for me. So
Can I make an
second?
Can I make an observation about that? I would, not to generalize at all, but I think the barrel pick probably appeals to folks that are more into barrel picks and more really, I don't know how to say this. More people that are, well, no, more versed isn't a good word for it because everybody's versed. I say more bourbon purists. Is that a good way to put it? I think that and I could have predicted this. And actually I can see the faces, and as people have gone along, who I think would be the ones who would like the barrel pick better. So that's a really good example. And there's nothing good, bad, or indifferent about it. It's just the way it is.
So let's drill down. Ladies only. Ladies only. By the way, did you know that we have a ladies bourbon club, an umbrella underneath Big Bourbon Club called the Ladies Cask Force? And even you can afford it. It's free. It's free if you're a member of the Big Bourbon Club. But even you are. So let's ask the question. Ladies only, raise your hand if you like the rye the best. Ladies only. All right, ladies only, raise your hand if you like the barrel proof the best. So ladies are liking the rye the most, which is kind of going along with the whole club. I'm kind of surprised, to be honest. I'm kind of surprised. All right, Bill, do we have a question? Alex
All
Callum.
right. Hey guys, again.
Hey, Alex.
So Wes, I know you just recently retired. Any plans on the horizon? And I just want to say I've been sipping on the rye. I love it. When we visited the distillery last year, like I said, it wasn't my favorite. I like the bourbon better, but as my palate has matured, I'm circling back to the rye.
Well, thanks. The question is, what does retirement look like? I don't know yet. I really don't. I'm trying to find my way through it. I knew the boys were ready to kind of step up. And I mean, if you go to Angels Envy, I think you will agree. A lot of y'all have been there. I have an amazing team that was behind me. And I'm the one that's always up front and always the one that's talking about Angels Envy and kind of gets the credit. But there is no way on this planet that we could have done this without the team that we have. So I think those of you, Lydia's a great example. Fantastic. Steve's breaking stuff now. Fantastic. So anybody else retired here? What the hell are you all doing? Drinking bourbon? What are you doing? Golf? More golf? What are you doing, ma'am? A lot of boating? Okay, boating's good. I do that down in Florida. Anybody else have any suggestions? Works in her garden. You will not find me in the garden anywhere. Anywhere. Artisanal honey. You know, we do have honeybees out in Henry County at our warehouse. I'm fascinated with bees. Maybe I'll be a beekeeper. What do you think? I would like to fly more. That's one thing that I haven't been able to do as much as stay current and fly as much as any other pilots here. What do you fly? Okay. Oh, wow. Anybody else? Your dad built planes. Well, that's close enough. Okay. All right. Any other questions here? I know we're kind of dragging things out. Yes, sir. A comment. Okay. Hold on just a second, everybody. Bring it down a little bit so we can hear this gentleman. You like a cocktail before dinner? Yes. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So, a big Manhattan guy here. Try it. Try an old fashioned with our rye in it. It will change your life. Yes, ma'am. You had a question, folks. I can't hear. Hold on just a second. Give me a minute. Go ahead. Do one of my kids stand out over the other? Wow. You know, they kind of jockey back and forth for who's my favorite, and I subscribe to the kind of the "What have you done for me lately" philosophy. But they're all incredible in all their ways. Everybody has a different position. Everybody has a different vocation. So I'm proud of all of them. I really am. Yes, sir. How busy is the bottling experience? Right now, honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, we sell out the tours a couple months in advance. So go on the website and take a look. I wish I could do better than that for you. It's definitely worth it. It really is. Do I know anybody that can help him out? No.
Okay, so I think we're wrapping things up. It's 8:30. Let me ask a question. Let me have your attention. Raise your hand if you're not a Big Bourbon Club member. Okay, we got 16 of them to join in the last hour and a half. In all seriousness, if you're not a member, we'd love to have you join you. If you are a member, we appreciate your support. Thank you to Wes Henderson. Thank you to Lydia. What a great job.
I do want to say one more thing before we go. Thank you so much. Folks, this is our hometown, and there's nothing that makes me prouder than seeing everyone here tonight and seeing what you've created. You all have created the bourbon experience where we are now. I mean, we just managed to make some bourbon for you. So the Henderson family is very grateful. We're thankful for your support. Every day I wake up and say thank you. So much gratitude to everyone here. Thank you for your support, and thanks for supporting the Big Bourbon Club as well. Oh, my podcast, I gotta give a plug here. Let's Drink Bourbon, and then at KY Bourbon Maker. Steve?
Thank you very much. Again, I mentioned this when we introduced Wes. It wasn't but 10 years ago we were talking about this dream of his, and you know, like most really successful entrepreneurs, and I've met with 1,000 of them in my days at the chamber, you just never know what to expect. You just have no idea. And to think where we are now looking backwards, man, you've hit a grand slam. You've hit a grand slam. Hey, look up at the picture. So on the right is Christian Henderson, the second youngest of the Henderson boys. And on the left is Andrew Higdon, the youngest of my boys. And this was out at our farm. And I'm telling you what, those kids did what they did best. They fished. And we would leave them for a weekend. They didn't have shoes on. They didn't have shirts on. I'm shocked they had shirts on. And it was like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn shooting guns, riding horses, never got in an argument, never had a problem, and caught 50 fish every single weekend.
And now Christian graduated from the Fire Academy and is getting ready to take his EMT. So we're very proud. And Andrew is doing well, too. So.
All right, Wes, thank you so much. Lydia, by the way, if you would be interested, now we haven't been invited yet, but if we get to the point, and if they get to the point that a barrel pick could be on the horizon, give a round of applause if you would like to participate in a barrel pick, if Angels Envy goes there. Well, I told Lydia that you would do a standing ovation, but I think she gets the love. All right, thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.